After some very public political wrangling, the debt ceiling deal was approved by the House of Representatives yesterday. Likely to be approved by the Senate today. The vote's set sometime about 12 noon. A lot of people have had questions over the past week. What's this mean to me? What's it mean for my finances? Do I have to reorient the way I approach my investments? Joe Krier, president of Krier Wealth Management, is here to try and provide some answers for us. You were telling me you've got a ton of calls in the office and people are sitting back and saying, okay, we finally got a deal. But what does this mean for me? Do I go back into the stock market? Do I keep my money where it is? Do I rethink how I approach my financial future?
Sure. People are even questioning whether U.S. Treasury bonds are a safe investment. And as long as I've been in the business for 25 years, that's always been the riskless rate of return on U.S. Treasuries. Everything else was built on that. And now we've had that shaken to the core.
And it also brings into question, whose interests do these politicians have? I mean, a lot of people sit back and say, are they looking at their political futures? Or are they worried about our future and the viability of America's growth?
And I think that's probably the most positive thing to come out of this very negative debate, if you ask me, is that people look at this and say, okay, we sent these people to Washington. Are they there to actually fix things, or are they there to play politics? And then if they're there to play politics, are they there because they believe the ideology of their side, or because they're just trying to grab power? And if that's on the table and the starting point for every discussion, I think that's a very positive thing.
Shall we approach that harsh reality that you and I chatted with before we went on the air?
Sure, why not?
I mean, this is brutal. We haven't had a balanced budget since the Clinton administration. Everybody talks about the fact that that's what they want. And your contention is, and you're not alone here, we're not going to see a balanced budget until the baby boomers die. Why?
Yeah, because they've made promises that they can't keep, and human decency says we're not going to cut off a senior citizen who's totally, reliant on Social Security. So we're going to continue to send that check. When that person does die, then the obligation dies with them. And as morbid as it may be, we have that obligation to our fellow human beings. And you just can't balance this budget while we have so much money going out and so little money coming in.
Social media is very powerful in extending messages these days. And there was one of those cut and paste messages that was on Facebook. And essentially it said, "Dear Congress, I'm sorry, I ran out of money, mismanaged my finances, and oops, I can't pay my taxes." And the message there is, look, you guys want to approach business in a way that just doesn't make any sense. And if I ran my household like that, I'd be out on the streets.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the key issues that this came down to and how these guys agreed, one was that they raise the debt ceiling enough so that it doesn't come up again before the elections next year. And two was that if Congress can't find a way to balance the budget, mandatory cuts, just like you or I would have in our own household. There's a point where we just don't eat if we don't have the money, and that's where the federal government needs to go to. If they can actually impose that on themselves, then that's a very positive turning point.
This is another short-term solution. I was reading one economist's opinion who basically said, because of the public and intense squabbles, already anemic economic growth will be weaker, unemployment will worsen, income and wealth inequitability will further deteriorate. Is that the case? Are we doing more harm than good here?
It's a big part of it, and uncertainty is the enemy of the markets. It's the enemy of a business that's trying to decide whether they want to hire 50 new people or not. And if you take this uncertainty out of the marketplace, it improves things. Some people want to blame government for every negative thing that's happened. Well, they make a lot of situations worse, but let's face it, we've gone through a terrible recession here. The economy is in rough shape, and these guys tinkering with things doesn't improve it. It also makes it hard to do spending cuts in the face of a high unemployment situation. So phasing this stuff in, which is what this deal does, kind of makes sense here to let the economy recover a little bit. 3 years down the road, it's a little bit easier to make those cuts.
Need a quick answer. Are we going to have, or are we already in, another recession?
No, we are in what I would define as a soft patch in a recovery.
All right. And this is a Band-Aid. Band-Aids, when the adhesive wears off, fall off.
Hopefully.
Joe Krier, thanks.